All right, so we've been doing physics, been doing a lot of math, a lot of graphing, and now it's time to get into something a little more hands-on, right? So we're going to talk about engineering. Now, before we get into this, I just want to give you the opportunity to maybe take a guess or let me know what you know about engineers or engineering in general. So, everything that you interact with that seems like it was built in a factory or came from, I don't know, from the store, even the packaging that things come in, are usually designed by engineers, especially electronics, like computers, cell phones, anything that measures something, so like a thermometer is created and made by engineering, right? But I want to make a clear distinction between engineering and architecture, okay? So architecture is building things that cars can drive on, building things that you can live in, work inside of, right? So architecture tends to do with buildings, bridges, and stuff like that. Engineering is more about building tools that are useful or building things that we can use to make our life easier. So a pencil is engineered, a scissor is engineered, a computer is engineered. The shape of this is engineered to be easy to pick up. The person who engineered the milk jug is a multimillionaire. So these designs that we take for granted, that we just are like, this is the way it is, people spent many, many days, years, and teams have worked to design these things. Also, like rocket ships is engineering, so that would be like a rocket engineer. So there's mechanical engineers, there's chemical engineers, and there's electrical engineers. Those are the major categories. Mechanical builds things that we can actually manipulate and use. A chemical engineer literally like engineers chemicals that are useful for day-to-day activities, like the salt on the roads are chemically engineered, right? And then you could also have an electrical or computer engineer, right? That focuses on things that have electricity or can compute things, right? So that's the general idea. All right, moving on. Okay, so what do engineers do? So there's two ways that they can innovate or create, right? There's an original idea, and then there's this thing that I call standing on the shoulders. That's not a real term, but it'll make a little more sense in a little bit. Now, standing on the shoulders is what 99.9999% of all innovation is. It's taking something that's already existing and making it better. Now, original ideas, that is cutting edge. That is something that doesn't happen nearly as much as you would think, all right? So, original ideas would be like the transition between the Stone Age and the Bronze Age. Whoever realized that you could melt down specific elements in order to make like solid metal objects that could be used as swords, pots and pans. That was a major original idea. Never thought of any, like humans have never thought of anything like that before until the Bronze Age. Another example would be something like the internet, right? So we had like phones and stuff, right? But we had nothing like the internet before the internet came around. That is an original idea. Came up by the US government came up with it. All right, so the cotton gin also is an original idea. Nothing like the cotton gin had ever been thought of before. The light bulb, also using electricity, that could also kind of be like staying on the shoulders because electricity existed before that. But the light bulb is also extremely innovative, going from candles to something that you can literally just flick a switch and then light up an entire room and not have to really worry about burning your house down, even though you could. All right, and the assembly line. Never thought of anything like that before. So these are all original ideas, and these should be all things that you recognize as being like huge, major, monumental moments in history. All right? So, this is my first example of standing on the shoulders. All right? So, standing on the shoulders. So, what are all of these things related to today? So if you look, we got a phone, right? We got a clock, we got a calculator, a Walkman, which is what people used to listen to music on, an iPod, a GPS, a sky reader, a compass, right? So all of these things are now cell phones, right? So or smartphones. So standing on the shoulders is improving something that has already existed. So in this case, it would be taking all these things and putting them in one, right? So the flashlight even, and games and stuff like that. So that's all on our phones now. These used to all be individual things that weren't packed into one thing, right? So standing on the shoulders is improving something that already exists. So one of the reasons why McDonald's was so successful is that they took the assembly line concept and they brought it into a restaurant. Also, iPhone, right? So iPhone has gone from the original iPhone in 2007 to now, whatever year this is, the newest iPhone. So for this year, it's 2012. And standing on the shoulders also can be linked to many natural and unnatural processes, right? So all of these things, so like whether it's the way that life spreads on Earth, right? Or the way that we design a ski lift, or the way... How many times you gonna ring? Or the way that a tree starts as one sprout and then goes into a bunch of different directions, or the way that a stream starts as a bunch of different streams and then becomes one river. These are concepts that we steal from nature, right? So we steal these designs from nature and we make them into useful things. So just remember, nature has had, at least complex life has had 550 million years of natural selection and mutations that are engineering these organisms. And keep that in the back of your mind for what we're going to go to here. So these are all plane designs. We've been successfully building planes, I think, since like 1910s or something like that general time. And planes have just gotten better and better and better and better and better. And there have been intense engineering projects and intense scientific experiments that try to come up with the best plane designs. So here are some of the most modern plane designs that can't be detected by radar very well. They're extremely fast, right? And I want to show you one of the best planes in modern day history. Not this, but this. So the reason why I'm showing you these two different images is that humans have been designing planes, like I said, since like 1910, right? So successfully designing planes. And as that time goes on, and as science and engineering gets better and better and better and better at designing these planes, it's interesting to think that nature kind of figured it out, the best design before we did. And it took us 200 or 100 years to figure out that, this shape of this hawk is almost the ideal shape of this plane. Point is, you never know where you're going to look in order to find out the ideal designs of any object, right? So maybe if you're going to be designing a underwater submarine you're trying to make go as fast as you can, maybe try and look up the fastest fish and design it after the shape of that. Or if you're designing an egg drop design that comes down to reach the ground, right? Maybe look up other designs that other people have done in order to take their ideas, right, and make them better, right? So improving ideas. Now, we don't want to plagiarize, right? We want to always give credit where credit is due and ask permission about certain things. But for the case of our egg drop design, We're not going to need to do that, right? So we're a high school science class. We're not going to be designing like something absolutely absurd. But what I want you to take a look at is this Falcon Heavy video. So this is the ultimate egg drop design because it is an egg drop experiment, not with an egg, but it's a drop experiment from outer space. So take a look at this video. Hopefully it inspires you. And then we're going to be researching different types of egg drop designs and coming up with our own that are within the parameters, which I will make a separate video for.